It's not your diet, it's this mistake. Most people think weight loss is supposed to be simple. Eat less, move more. Stay disciplined long enough and the body eventually changes. That idea has been repeated for so long it almost feels unquestionable. And yet millions of people live inside a completely different reality. They cut calories, they follow plans, they remove foods they enjoy, they force consistency, and still, something feels wrong. The weight either doesn't move at all, or it moves briefly before the body seems to pull itself back toward the same place again. Eventually, frustration turns into confusion. Because when effort and outcomes stop matching each other, people naturally assume something is wrong with them. A lack of discipline, a lack of willpower. But what if the issue is deeper than motivation? What if the body is not refusing to lose weight, but adapting to an environment it interprets as unstable? Because the human body does not care about aesthetics. It cares about survival, stability, predictability. And many of the conditions created by modern life send the opposite signal. The body evolved in environments where energy availability was uncertain. Stress was physical and temporary. Movement was built into survival itself. Recovery happened naturally because there were clear periods of rest. The nervous system had contrast, activation followed by calm, effort followed by recovery. But modern life changed that rhythm almost completely. Food became constant. Stress became psychological and continuous. Light exposure extended far beyond natural cycles. Sleep became fragmented. And perhaps most importantly, the body entered a state where it rarely feels fully safe or fully recovered. This matters because fat storage is not just about calories. It is heavily influenced by how the body interprets its environment. When the body perceives chronic instability, it shifts priorities. Energy conservation becomes more important than optimization. Hunger signals change, cravings change, hormonal patterns shift subtly over time. And this can happen even when someone appears to be doing everything right. One of the biggest misunderstandings about weight loss is the assumption that metabolism is static, as if the body burns energy the same way regardless of context. But metabolism is adaptive. It responds to sleep quality, stress levels, inflammation, nutrient intake, movement patterns, even emotional state. Two people can eat the same amount of food and experience completely different outcomes because their bodies are operating under different internal conditions. This is why weight loss often becomes harder the more aggressively someone tries to force it. Extreme restriction can create a biological environment that feels threatening to the body. Hunger hormones rise, energy expenditure may decrease, focus shifts toward obtaining quick energy. The system begins defending itself against perceived scarcity. Not because the body is broken, but because it is responding exactly the way it was designed to under stress. And stress in the modern world rarely looks dramatic. It looks normal. Constant notifications, constant deadlines, constant stimulation. Sitting indoors under artificial light while the brain processes more information in a single day than previous generations encountered in weeks. The nervous system was never designed for uninterrupted activation. Yet many people now live in a state where true recovery barely exists. Even rest is filled with stimulation, screens, noise, mental processing, anticipation. And when the nervous system remains activated for too long, the body begins prioritizing short-term survival over long-term balance. This influences weight regulation in ways that are often invisible. Cortisol, one of the body's primary stress hormones, affects how energy is stored and used. Chronic elevation may influence appetite, cravings, insulin sensitivity, and fat distribution. But again, the important part is not one hormone acting alone. It is the entire system adapting together. The body constantly interprets signals from the environment and adjusts accordingly. If those signals suggest instability, recovery becomes less efficient. Sleep becomes lighter. Hunger becomes more emotionally reactive. Energy fluctuates more sharply throughout the day. And eventually, the person feels trapped in a cycle they cannot fully explain. This is where modern dieting culture becomes dangerous psychologically, because it frames weight as purely a matter of discipline, which means when someone struggles, they internalize failure. They blame themselves instead of questioning the conditions their biology is operating under. But the body is not a calculator. It is a prediction system. It learns patterns. It anticipates stress. It adapts to repeat. If someone repeatedly restricts food intake while remaining chronically stressed and sleep-deprived, the body may begin treating the environment as unpredictable. And unpredictability changes behavior at every level of the system. Even the way food is experienced has changed. Most modern foods are engineered for rapid reward. Highly processed combinations of refined carbohydrates and fats create intense stimulation within the brain's reward circuitry. This does not mean people are weak for craving them. It means the brain is responding to concentrated signals it rarely encountered in natural environments. The speed of absorption also matters. Many processed foods digest quickly, creating rapid spikes in blood glucose followed by equally rapid declines. Energy rises sharply, then falls. Hunger returns sooner. Cravings intensify. And because these fluctuations become normalized, many people mistake them for personality traits instead of physiological responses. The gut may also play a larger role than people realize. Digestion is not simply about breaking down food. The gut communicates constantly with the brain and nervous system. Microbial balance influences inflammation, hunger signaling, and even mood regulation. When diets become highly processed and low in diversity, the internal ecosystem of the gut may shift as well. This can influence how efficiently nutrients are processed and how stable energy feels throughout the day. And because the gut and brain are deeply interconnected, disruptions in one system often affect the other. This is why weight struggles are rarely isolated to body fat alone. People often describe brain fog, low motivation, poor sleep, emotional eating, fatigue, and unstable focus all happening simultaneously. These are not separate problems occurring randomly. They may be connected expressions of a larger system under strain. The body is attempting to regulate itself under conditions that differ dramatically from the environment human biology evolved within. And perhaps one of the most overlooked factors is rhythm. The human body relies heavily on predictable cycles. Circadian rhythms influence hormones, digestion, metabolism, body temperature, cognitive function, and energy regulation. But modern life constantly disrupts these patterns. Artificial light delays natural sleep signals. Eating late at night changes metabolic timing. Inconsistent schedules confuse regulatory systems that depend on repetition and predictability. Over time, the body loses some of the stability that allows efficient regulation to occur. This creates an important realization. Weight gain is not always the body failing. Sometimes it is the body adapting to chronic overload in the only way it knows how: storing energy, conserving resources, increasing hunger, reducing unnecessary expenditure. These responses may have once protected humans during times of scarcity, but in modern conditions, they can become maladaptive, especially when the environment continuously provides calorie-dense foods while simultaneously increasing stress and reducing recovery. The result is a system that feels trapped between abundance and deprivation at the same time. Food is everywhere, yet nourishment often feels incomplete. Information is everywhere, yet clarity feels rare. People consume more stimulation than ever before while feeling increasingly disconnected from stable energy and genuine recovery. And the body responds to all of it, quietly, constantly, beneath awareness. This is why many people eventually reach a point where dieting stops feeling empowering and starts feeling exhausting. Because the issue was never just about food quantity. It was about the environment surrounding the entire system. Sleep, stress, nervous system state, food quality, light exposure, movement patterns, emotional regulation, digestive stability. None of these exist independently. They overlap continuously. And the body interprets them together, not separately. What makes this difficult is that modern culture rewards short-term solutions, fast transformations, aggressive restrictions, extreme routines. But biological systems rarely change sustainably through force alone. The harder people push against the body, the more the body often pushes back. Not out of defiance, but adaptation. The system attempts to preserve stability even when that stability no longer serves the individual's goals. And maybe this is the deeper mistake hidden beneath the surface of modern weight loss culture. The assumption that the body is an enemy to overpower instead of a system attempting to protect itself under unfamiliar conditions. Because once you begin viewing weight through the lens of adaptation rather than failure, the entire conversation changes. Hunger becomes information instead of weakness. Fatigue becomes a signal instead of laziness. Cravings become part of a feedback loop instead of proof of a lack of control. None of this means personal responsibility disappears, but it does mean the framework becomes more accurate. The body is not operating in isolation from the environment. It is shaped by it continuously. And the modern environment may be creating biological conditions that make stable energy regulation increasingly difficult for many people. In the end, the real issue may not be that people have suddenly become less disciplined than previous generations. It may be that human biology is trying to function inside conditions it never fully adapted to. Conditions of constant stimulation, constant availability, constant psychological load, and constant interruption of natural rhythms. And when viewed through that lens, weight loss stops being just a matter of appearance. It becomes a reflection of how deeply modern life interacts with the systems responsible for survival, energy, and balance itself.